welcome to Snap for joining us. Scott's joining us again. Oh, it looks like we're live. All right, it's top of the hour. It's 10 o'clock here in Texas, and it's 11 Eastern time. I had meant to do it at 12 Eastern time, but apparently I forgot to change. I was on Eastern time last week, so I forgot to change it. So good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody's starting to join us, and we're here for the next version of Cutaway Security's ICS Friday Infosec chat. So it's April 15th, 2022. Got a couple people joining in. Hopefully people are starting to join the LinkedIn and YouTube. If you are, then please let us know in the chat. And we can see your questions. We can answer them as we're going. Scott, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing pretty well. Your audio sounds a little fuzzy than last week.
You know what? Okay, let's. I didn't have time to change my settings, and of course, yep. Hang on.
I can't hear anything now.
You should be able to hear me a lot better.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely.
Hey Scott, thanks for being my technical director there. I appreciate it. No, it's StreamYard's been a little. It was interesting. Chrome, because I'm on Mac. They do a lot of protecting. I actually had to restart twice just to get the settings correct so I could share the slides. And apparently it didn't pick up my microphone when I came back on. So I appreciate that. But these are the little things that we have to do. It's just a ton of things going on this week, so we're going to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to switch back and forth, probably sharing some things. But we want to start off with what I've been doing this week. What Cutaway Security has been doing. Last week talked about how I was on site doing a security assessment for SCADA gas and assisting a team to. It wasn't a penetration test. It was actually a security assessment. So we're going in, gathering information, and I'm reporting on that right now. And just got done writing up one of our findings. The SCADA data centers, the SCADA management servers, those are all going to be in our Purdue Level 3 environments. And I can't emphasize enough how much help the engineers and the administrators that are deploying these devices, these systems, they need assistance from, and I'll just say it, they need assistance from our corporate teams. They need people that understand Windows operating systems, group policies, Active Directory domains, the configuration of roles and responsibilities, and they need the assistance to configure these things correctly, because threat actors are going to take advantage of these things within these environments. And if they're not, we talked about it last week. If you're giving everybody domain admin rights, that's a problem. If you're allowing the domain admins to go in and access data for your application, hey, guess what? All those users with domain admin rights, they can modify the application. They can modify the data that's in the database, which could be used downstream for control. Okay. Or maybe that's upstream. They always switch it on me, so talking about it. So, that's going to be the huge part of this report, is identifying issues with roles and responsibilities for Windows configurations in this environment. So it's not even control stuff. And we're going to talk about that a little bit when we get down to pipe dream and so forth. So that's what I'm doing today. Of course, I lagged a lot because as soon as I got back, I knew that I needed to update something from last week. Some of the information gathering that I wanted to do just wasn't on point, and I wanted to improve that a little bit. And I'd already been talking with Tim Conway and Patrick Miller, who are heavily involved in NERC-CIP, and I wanted to improve some of the NERC-CIP assessment scripts that are out there that are used in the provided by the SANS course. I think it's ICS 456. I'll be taking that in a couple of weeks, which is in June. I'm really excited about that. So instead of reporting this week, I sat down for 3 days and just busted out some PowerShell scripts, collection scripts, and also I figured I'd take it to the next level. I always add things. I add way too much, but also for information gathering for digital forensics and incident response. Differ, for people. It's basically incident response stuff. The volatile information that your teams will want to gather, if they're not calling somebody like Mandiant or Dragos, or you might be calling them and they'll be saying, hey, gather some of the volatile information before we get there. So I wanted to put out some, when I was talking to Tim Conway, it seemed to me like, one of the things that he needed was something simple that people can do. In other words, we do a lot of complicated things out there. We're like, hey, download these tools and deploy it this way and run this in your environment. You can set up your group policies to push this out automatic. And that gets really complicated in these environments, especially for the operators and the engineers and the admins that are in the control environments. They might not have that experience, and that might be confusing for them. We want to make this easy. So, and that's what I tried to do with these scripts, just to gather some of the volatile information, network connections, what's the size of the processes in memory, what are your scheduled tasks, who's authenticated recently, those types of things. So hopefully that's helpful. And I put that out there on the CutSec GitHub. And then finally, in May, I'll be teaching out at San Diego for SANS ICS. So that's the things I've been doing. Scott, what have you been working on this week?
I've been on a hiatus for the last 2 weeks, but I started a new project Monday, and unfortunately, it is an enterprise cybersecurity. But I'll be doing that for 4 weeks, and then I go back into an LNG facility in the middle of May.
Well, that's extremely important, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Anything you want to bring up? Any questions? I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Hopefully, people are joining us. But any questions you have around that or observations?
So they'll both be NIST cybersecurity framework reviews, but my company is elected to use CyberQuant by MasterCard.
Okay.
It's kind of like a note-taking / interviewing / aggregating tool, and they made it sound like, oh yeah, you ask about this thing, put some feedback into the system, and it gives you follow-up questions, I guess.
So is it designed specifically for the NIST cybersecurity framework, or
yes,
are you kind of
forcing
it into it?
I get a trial run of demo of it literally right after this.
Nice.
That's what they said. Yeah, it's built right for NIST cybersecurity framework.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I, it's here's my thing about tools and stuff like that. Because people ask me, what's the best tool for doing this? The one you have and use correctly, right? Implement it correctly. Hopefully that's going to allow you to kind of review with everybody all the different questions that you want to answer, task the individuals to going out and getting that information, because it's a lot of information discovery, and hopefully that makes it easier for your project management.
That's good info.
Yeah, no, actually, and I asked what you're using, and and it's I'm trying to use this with the client. One of the things that I was exposed to at the Houston security conference last year was securitygate.io, and they're specifically designed around doing these types of assessments, whether it's NIST or cybersecurity framework. They also do like a CMMC or I can't remember exactly.
Their office is about 6 houses that way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So do you interact with them at all?
I never have. No. I pass it by every day.
They're going to be a little burned up that you that your organization picks something else. But like I said, any tool that you have to help you figure it out. And I don't have a lot of experience with it. I think it's interesting. There's I'm going to try to use it to solve some challenges going forward if I get these clients, but we'll see how it works. So that's pretty interesting. That's let us know how that goes, Scott.
Yeah, I'm interested to try it.
All right. So not seeing anybody ask any questions from YouTube or LinkedIn. That's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to go on to, I'm going to actually take this down first, to kind of drive our discussions. We want to talk about what's going on out there as far as malware. There's a lot of vulnerabilities and disclosures going on. I'll start with the second bullet first, because we'll get into, I'm going to pull up the PDF from Dragos in just a minute to kind of help guide the talking about pipe dream and the in controller and stuff. But one of the things that is a challenge in this industry is talking about with our teams is talking about newly published vulnerabilities, newly published malware, and the actual risk they present to our environment, or to our environments, to our control environments, to our networks. So what does it mean to our organization? And there's, media is all about hyperbole, meaning that they kind of sometimes, some reporters actually get it right. They actually speak to the right people about what's going on there, but others just want to blow things up. They want to, they want to make it interesting. They want to pull readers in, sell the advertisements, and that's important to keep some of these organizations going, even the good ones. And so I do think it's important to get the word out there for these types of things, but at the same time we have to balance. And actually, the experts, the information security experts and the experts in control environments, they need to kind of balance out that hyperbole, okay? Because we're just going to see it in the media. But when we're talking to leadership, when leadership reads that and they turn around and say, okay, what about this? It's the responsibility for people working in this industry to help them understand what is actually going on. And so, I like it. I like the Dragos reports. I like the Mandate reports because they do get into the technical details. Sometimes it can be a little heavy for some people, which is understandable, but it's important because what they do is they lay out the actual risks to different environments, control environments specifically. So I'm going to pull that up. What are your thoughts on that, Scott?
So I was actually going to ask you a leading question. So my brother-in-law works at a manufacturing company, and they kind of tasked him with cybersecurity, but there's no real cybersecurity guy for the manufacturing side of things. And it seems like he kind of gave up on it because he's not getting the support he needs. Because I'm kind of thinking, I've always been a consultant. I'm kind of thinking like, what should he do? Like it's just him. It's not like there's no top down kind of thing. They just kind of saw stuff in the news like, hey, cybersecurity is a buzzword. What are we doing about it? No one's doing anything. You're doing it. What should he do with this information? Like, okay, there's Pipe Dream, and then there's the Rockwell one that came out like a week ago about the hidden logic and everything. And I just sent him that one this morning because I talked to him about it over the weekend. And it's a challenge, and unfortunately that is something that I've seen in the past. I enjoy working with within this environment, especially with the people that are working on the security team. Whenever I go on site, the people that are interacting with me are usually the best and brightest for that organization, meaning that they are they're smart, they're go-getters. And they understand the environment, and they can, sometimes they're there to kind of keep me in check a little bit, but they're there for a reason, and they've been selected for a reason. Now, whether or not they have the support that they need, or whether or not they really understand the importance of some of the things that they're doing, that's just education that comes with time. So first of all, the thing I want to say to him is good on him for getting out there and accepting the challenge that was presented to him. Yes. It can be difficult, and especially when you look at how broad all the domains are, how many individual things that you have to pay attention to, it can be overwhelming. So I would say to him, hey, hang in there, and take what you can learn. Don't accept too much, outline
set expectations to your leadership by, figuring out how much time you need for specific tasks, and
Right.
don't allow them to overload you. And, actually ask them to help prioritize, saying that, hey, it's going to take me this long to do these 3 things, but you need me to do these 5 things. So which one are these the priorities? And if something else is a priority, I need help. Right. So yeah, I would encourage him to, outline things specifically, and communicate with his leadership. If they don't want to have those conversations, then he knows that it's going to be difficult. And at least by telling them what he's able to take on and do, he can limit himself to that and not feel bad about the stuff that's falling off.
Right.
So, hopefully,
I think he's starting to work himself down that hole of, if it's not all done now and something happens, he's to blame.
Yeah. I mean, well, right. And that's why it's important to
Right.
list out those specific things and push that up to leadership and ask them, by giving bulleted lists for the tasks that you want to accomplish, and asking them about prioritization. That is going to be the most important thing, because, it can't, you'll just get overwhelmed. And if you don't do that, and it's also pushing it off on them. Hey, yes, we have this issue. I asked you about this 2 weeks ago, and you reprioritized me, or you didn't prioritize me. So
I might point him at the direction of this next week, just to see if he has time to get on.
Oh, great. That would be awesome. Just, to talk about some of those challenges and let people know. Part of the goal of me doing this is to get people on here that are actually implementing these things, so other people can see that, hey, my experiences aren't unique, because they're not. This is happening across the world right now in just about every organization. People don't realize how many organizations have control environments that are critical to the functionality for that business. And we're not just talking about critical infrastructure, utilities, gas and oil, natural gas, and stuff like that. We're talking about food and beverage, paper mills, are your average everyday business with distribution. It's extremely important to them. And
I think I was talking to a car seat, like they made the actual seats for Ford or something. They're like, yeah, if we went down for a whole day, we'd be out of business.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, because they're just going to turn to somebody else.
Yeah.
And the number of lives that impacts. The number of families that impacts, that business goes down, but where do all of those people that were actually doing that go? Because all of those jobs that the people that are picking up that business, they've already tasked all their people. They don't have jobs. They don't have new jobs. And even if they did, because of the increased business, it's going to take them a while to spin that up. So it's an interesting dynamic when we're talking about attacks and risks within these businesses.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the insight.
Oops. Oh, dang. So add to stream. There we go. All right. So, okay. I'm kind of like scrolling off to the side here. So this is pretty interesting. All right. So Dragos and the industry has been doing a lot of research, and the threat actors, have been putting out a lot of malware. And what's really interesting is the write-ups that are done by Dragos and Mandiant. The reason why I'm picking on Dragos and not selecting Mandiant's output was just a web page. I'm sure they have a PDF, like a full report, but the initial one that I found was Dragos, and I like some of the how they lay this out, so we can talk about organize our talk. But the Mandiant write-up is just as good as the Dragos' one, and I encourage everybody to go out there and check that out where they can. If you have any questions about this, I'm watching the comments. Hopefully people are joining us. If you do have questions, let us know. So the new malware, I think it was InController. It's called InController by Mandiant, and in this case, Dragos is calling it Pipe Dream. It's interesting. If you're not familiar with Dragos's intel reports, they will identify threat actor groups, And so they've identified this one, and I'm going to butcher it, right? Chernovites. So their threat actor group is Chernovites. So these are the teams, or you can't even really call it a team, because it's I guess it does equate to a team, but these might be individuals or teams that are similar to other teams that they've identified. It's just this is a unique approach, and so they've created a new kind of reference to the team or to the approach style, and that's the Chernovite. But the actual malware is Pipe Dream. There's a lot of discussion. Okay, why did Mandiant call it In Controller? Why is Dragos calling it Pipe Dream? Well, if you go look at McAfee's write-up on this, Semantics write-up, they're going to have different names. Okay, and it's a fight to get the actual name for any malware because of media. Organizations want that media, and so they're the first one to get predominant naming of this gets referenced everywhere else. So but the teams don't, they kind of work in a vacuum, and they work within their own teams, and so they come up with their names, and then they just select it and put it out there, and it's usually based on something that they're seeing, some unique feature within the malware. So probably a little bit too much about malware description, but we have to remember that a lot of organizations, a lot of people that are looking at these things, they don't know where this stuff comes from. So I wanted to be sure to get that out there. Looks like we got about 9 minutes. So let's go through this. I'm not going to read through all of this, of course. I'm going to kind of scroll down and get to the parts that I think are important. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger, because this is the important part right here, or at least one of the important parts. So the first one, this right here describes all of the different capabilities that are being provided. So first, and this is the part that I don't know. It's going a little deep with the naming scheme, and Dragos has come up with. There are different portions of this malware that provide different functionality. And you'll see that a little bit better, but they've named every one of these, and basically what they're doing is they're naming the capabilities within this malware. Okay, but what's important about this is this malware has functionality that is very control environment related, and we can see that we can see that this is interacting with CutSec libraries, and will have an impact specifically on some Schneider Electric PLCs, but also providing capabilities to interact with other industrial control devices that leverage the CutSec library and functionality. And so that's important to understand. The bad omen part, the ability to scan and interact with Omicron PLCs and softwares, that's pretty important. We've seen the OPC scanning before in other malwares. Of course, this one's providing that as well. All right. These are a lot, and these are just the different capabilities. So you can read over this report and dive into each one of those. But it's the fact that this is so flexible within a control environment that makes these new malwares that are coming out, these new frameworks that are coming out, unique. Okay, these are people are equating this to Stuxnet. Stuxnet was very specific. Okay, and it had a very specific role. All right. What this malware does is, it gives that flexibility, that interaction, and we'll talk about that in just a second. I like the fact that it gives images of the different products that they're impacted, and which one of the attack modules is related to those devices. But we only got a short time, so I want to come back down. I want to move down to the. Well, first, here's an attack matrix. If Scott, have you ever seen the MITRE attack matrix before for the corporate environment?
Yeah, we built a tool at my last company to kind of interact with it during our pen test assessments.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's and that's extremely helpful. And that's it's gotten so broad, the corporate one. And this one's going to just blow up too. If you go out to the MITRE site, and you can actually Google the MITRE attack for ICS, and you'll come up with a link that'll take you to the version that's specific to ICS. And that's because they're two-staged attacks. There's stuff that goes on in the corporate environment, and those all apply. All right. But then when you get into the control environment and you're dealing specifically with control areas, that's when the ICS attack matrix comes into play. And you can see here how they're using this to help provide information about what this malware and what this threat actor is using within an environment. And man, it's providing a lot of capabilities, a lot of automation for the threat actors. So let's keep scrolling down. I want to get to, and I like this scenario right here. Okay, so what this is describing is, you can see, if you're not familiar with the Purdue levels, on the left-hand side, we can see all of the different Purdue levels, 0 through 4. 4 being the enterprise network, so your plant enterprise network. 3 being that part of the environment where your management servers are. And I was talking about it with the SCADA stuff that I was doing last week. 3.5 is a reference to the DMZ between our corporate environment and our control environment. Our process levels are actually down here at level 2 and below. Okay, and this is where your level 1 is where you're going to find your controllers. Level 2 is where you're looking at some of your supervisory, and then level 0 is the actual process itself. And we can see that this malware provides a lot of different capabilities. In other words, it allows threat actors to take advantage of the compromised systems within the enterprise. They'll have to find a way through the DMZ. And in this case, it's leveraging the communications between our servers in our corporate environment and OPC UA servers, servers that are deployed within our DMZ that communicate using that industrial protocol, and then leveraging that to pivot within the environment and using some of the other modules to take advantage. Okay. The key to all of this is the complexity of those capabilities. All right. The fact that if a threat actor can get access to this, yeah, they can interact with them. However, where we need to control some of that, I don't think vernacular is the right word, but the conversation, where we need to understand the conversation, is the process is still going to protect itself. In other words, the threat actors have to understand what the actual process is to understand how to do it. Now, we can't assume that they don't, right? We have to understand that, yes, they understand what processes are, but every process is unique. So they're still going to have to do that discovery about what's going on there. Okay. I mean, we've got a short period of time, so I'm going to pivot to that prevent, detect, and respond aspect. Okay. Because this is no different than any other malware. In other words, there needs to be communications. Of course, if this gets in, it can be automated to do certain things. Okay. But usually, number one, the process is going to protect itself. A lot of operations are going to fall back to manual operations. Okay. And if they don't have this communication with this, the threat actors can't customize their attack to a specific environment. Okay. So you can prevent this by preventing some of this communications between your enterprise network and your control network, also remote access into this, and then understanding what's communicating within your processes. If you don't have vision into anything, you don't know what's going on. And if you're not ready to respond to that, then why do any of it? Okay. So it's important for people. I wanted to point all of this out because yes, this is extremely dangerous malware, but your organizations can take actions to help limit the success of these threat actors and even prevent it. So Scott, I mean, we've only got a minute left. So any thoughts, any like last minute thoughts on that?
It's just crazy how well it encompasses the whole Purdue model, top to bottom.
Are you talking about the write-up, or are you talking about the malware's capabilities?
The malware itself, where it's just kind of got different modules to encompass getting through different areas, north, south, east, west.
Well, I mean, it still takes work. right? They still have to find this tunnel. Obviously these capabilities automate some of that discovery, and that's a part of it. It's that automation that's the strength for the threat actors. And look, we're beyond the fact that a lot of control personnel used to say, well, people don't understand this. They don't understand what we're doing. They don't understand the communications, how we're deploying things. So how can they be successful? Well, guess what? I think this is the perfect point of, yeah, they can be. And
I do have to drop though, Don. So I definitely appreciate it. I'll catch you next time.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Scott. And thank you everybody else for joining us. Hopefully you learned a little bit out of this and it was useful for you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us for another Cutaway Security ICS Friday Infosec chat. And have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.